Hey friends, welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City just a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Williams Realty. If you're interested in buying or selling a home in the area, or if you're looking at investing in a rental property, give us a call at 423-930-8003, and we will look forward to helping you. Now, let's get to today's episode. It is a beautiful May day here in beautiful Johnson City. My mother just turned 80. Happy birthday, Mom, yesterday. I'm so excited for you. That's a big milestone. I'll probably make it there one day, and we'll see. I don't know. But just super proud of you, and you've blessed me in just amazing ways, and so I'm happy birthday. But enough about birthdays, enough about May. It's time for a podcast, and I'm excited for you guys to meet my new friend, Ann Jafellers Mason. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So glad you're on here. And so you run StoryTown Radio Show.
I do.
Is that how it goes?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, you're hopefully a podcast listener.
I am a podcast listener.
So you probably know what's coming first. Johnson City. You live around Johnson City. What is your favorite thing about Johnson City, Tennessee?
I grew up in the Tree Streets, so I love the Tree Streets. I have very fun memories of walking all over there when I was growing up.
Which street did you grow up on?
Well, kind of Edge. I was on Franklin.
Yep.
You know, so I could just walk straight down there near Southside.
And the park is right over there.
Yeah, the park's right over there.
Yeah.
Halloween was like happening on the Tree Streets. So
it was crazy over there for Halloween. I mean, like hundreds of kids.
Yeah.
It was nuts.
So that's probably why I still love Halloween so much today, is because that's the Halloween I grew up with.
Did they do the Tree Streets West Walnut trick-or-treating when you were growing up too, or does that?
No, they didn't. That came later, yeah.
We took our boys to that a few times. That was
nice.
Fun. And that was nuts too. Like thousands of kids showed up to get. I mean, kids love candy.
Kids love candy. Kids love free candy.
They love free candy. I'm excited about West Walnut Street now.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of nice walkways for the kids and bike paths, and so Halloween this year is probably going to be off the hook.
Oh, you're ready.
Chain. Are people still saying that, off the chain?
I think so.
Okay. All right. So you grew up in Johnson City, and you love the Tree Streets most about it. Is that right?
Yeah, I say the Tree Streets. We went to school at Science Hill, so
go Toppers.
Yeah, go Toppers. So
I just had a son graduate from UT. He's
nice.
He's a graduate from the Science Hill.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have lots of degrees. You went to lots of schools.
I did. I accumulated.
So you went to Science Hill.
Degrees.
And then where'd you go after that?
I went right up the mountain to Mars Hill, which is in Mars Hill, North Carolina.
Just over the mountain.
Yeah, I was at college then. It's a university now. And then from there, I came back home to get my master's at ETSU.
And you got your master's in?
History.
So, And then you have another.
I got a Master of Fine Arts in Playwriting, and that was in Hollins, Virginia, which is right next to Roanoke, Virginia. So
that's a lot of school.
It's a lot of school. When I was a kid, I told my mom, I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to go to school that long. And then after I got my Master of Fine Arts, I added it up, and I was like,
I went to school that long.
I went to school the same amount of time.
But you may have had more fun.
So, yeah, I still don't want to be a doctor. I was like, I didn't want that responsibility.
Yeah, there's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. And how did you, what led you down the path? What influenced you into getting into stories and playwriting and fine arts? And where do you feel like that came from?
I've always really liked theater and performing. And I had good teachers. I had good theater teachers in high school. Well, really starting in middle school, I had amazing history teachers that made me fall in love with history. Yeah. And history is naturally dramatic, so they just kind of marry together really well. Yeah. So now I do historical theater, and then I collect people's stories, their oral histories, and we share that in different forms, so people hear their stories performed back in a way that maybe they never thought they'd hear their own story performed back to them.
Talk to us more about that. What does that look like?
Yeah, so my technical title is program manager at the McKinney Center in Jonesborough.
Okay.
But really, my whole job, the crux to my job, is to do the StoryTown program. That came about 14 years ago. And Jonesborough, it's known as the storytelling capital of the world. It's one of our claims to fame. And we go through not just Jonesborough, but the whole region. I have trained story collectors, and we just talk to people like we're doing right now. We record their stories, and we put them in a monthly radio show called the StoryTown Radio Show. Yeah, and we do them in plays and things like that.
What's the craziest story you feel like you've collected?
Oh gosh, there's no talent. I mean, we talked to a lot of veterans and their stories of,
Oh my gosh.
being in the war, World War II, Vietnam, Korea. It's like, oh my goodness, the things, they were faced with and talk with, like some of them so casually, like, oh yeah. This one guy was like, yeah, where I sat in the plane was right over the nuclear bomb. So if they had like hit the wrong switch, I would have gone out with it. And he was like, oh, it's fine. I just sat there. And I was like, what? So, okay, that would not have been my reaction.
Holy smokes. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. It's like,
yeah, the stuff people around here have done, and the places they've been, and the stories they have to tell are amazing.
Okay, so you work for Jonesborough. Where did, how did you, I want to know the backstory, if you will,
Yeah.
sorry for the pun, of how Jonesborough became the storytelling capital of the world. What made Jonesborough the spot to come and tell stories?
Jimmy Neal Smith made that the spot.
Okay, tell me more about this lady.
Yeah, well,
Or Jimmy?
Jimmy, yep,
Jimmy Neal Smith.
Yeah,
Okay.
Jimmy Neal Smith.
Gotcha.
He actually was a teacher. He taught at Science Hill in the 1970s. He was the journalism teacher. And I actually talked to two of his students just yesterday from the 70s.
Okay.
And he was taking them, because they said they would go to Elizabethton to print the paper. They did the Hilltop magazine. And one of the car rides, he was listening to the comedian and storyteller Jerry Clower on the radio. And he said to the students, wouldn't this be great if we could get him to come to Jonesborough and we could make a storytelling festival? So 73, what starts with like 100 or some people, now we still have the International Storytelling Festival to this day, and we become 10,000 people that weekend. So it really was just his vision and let's get all these storytellers together in Jonesborough and embrace storytelling as an art. It's the 70s, there's a folk revival, so it hits that folk revival on the head, and yeah, it just stays and grows and grows and grows and grows. So
and you said 73 is when it started?
1973.
So 52 years ago.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly when I started. Yeah, and then where do you see storytelling growing and going in Jonesborough? I mean, you said the population of Jonesborough is like 2,500.
Oh, we just passed 6,000.
What?
Yeah. So
A bunch of people. We've moved a bunch of people here. I didn't know it was that many, because it was like 2,500. It feels like 5 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it's a part of that was annexing.
Right.
But also too, like someone gave me the statistic for the population growth from like 2023, and it was like 20%, and it was like we'd been hanging around 5,000 for forever, but now they're like, oh, we're over 6,000 now.
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of people moving.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they love Jonesborough. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the quintessential downtown. Like, I don't know why you guys haven't gotten Hallmark to come down there.
Well, there have been a few movies filmed down there.
Yeah.
But yeah, not any big Hallmark. I agree. So
when I was a kid, there were some movies filmed down there, and some of my buddies were like extras and stuff.
Yeah.
Like that. That's super cool.
Disney did a movie down there in the 1980s.
Oh.
Yeah.
That may have been one of the ones they were in. So tell me more about the radio show. When does that happen? Where do people find it?
Yeah.
What's it like?
So we do that the fourth Monday of every month.
Okay. Is this live?
It's live. We do it like it's kind of like an homage to the 1930s, 1940s radio shows. So we do our sound effects live. The actors, because it's all community actors, they are reading like the script, but we rehearse so it doesn't sound like it's read. And it's a variety of ages,
So people come on, so there's you're recording live action stuff going
We're
on.
recording live action stuff. We have a musical guest every episode.
That's cool.
Like this year we kicked off the season in January with Carson Peters. It's a great way to showcase like local musical talent too.
He is so talented.
Oh, he is. He's so good.
I need to get him on here.
We do commercials. So we really try to make it have that really vintage feel. But like the stories that are in the show are all from people throughout Northeast Tennessee who share their stories with us in our archives.
That's cool.
And every show has a different theme. Like this month, because we do the show on Memorial Day this month because it's the fourth Monday, as Salute to Veterans. We do a veteran show every year because there's so many veterans in this region and they have so many stories that need to be shared. So
that's super cool. And where does that take place?
We do it at the McKinney Center usually.
Can people come and watch it live?
Yeah, it's a $10 ticket.
Yeah.
And you can get we do season passes every year, and this year when we got halfway, we did a half season pass. So it's $45 to see the rest of 7 shows of the season.
That's great.
They're about an hour in length.
Yeah.
But you get music, you get good stories. It's just a really good hour, sometimes hour 15 minutes of entertainment every month.
I like it. What and then you also have written some plays, I understand. Is that right? Tell us about that. Tell us.
Well, I did get a degree in playwriting, but in my old job at the Heritage Alliance, which was all about maintaining the museums in Jonesborough and sharing the history of this region, I started doing like museum theater and, like I said, telling historical stories. And that's where I started things like A Spot on the Hill, which is a play we do in the old Jonesborough Cemetery every year. We've been going for over 10 years now, doing that every October. And people come, they bring a chair, they sit in the cemetery, and we have actors portray the people who are buried there. So
what?
Yeah.
So tell me more about how did this come about? Like, because I went to when we were kids, we'd go to a cemetery for storytelling, ghost stories, and I was it kind of freaked me out a little bit, but it was good. Like,
well, they used to do at the Storytelling Festival. They used to do ghost stories in the historic cemetery, but then it got too big. So they had to move it. I knew that other places did that. And sometimes they would just even do like a walking tour, but we started doing it as like a straight up play, and people love it. And it's a great way to remind them the cemetery's up there and why it's important, and share the stories of the people who are buried there, because they really were like sort of like the formation of this area in Jonesborough. And you know, Munsey's right down there, and William Munsey's buried in that cemetery in Jonesborough.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So.
Yeah, because I think they all have a story. Right?
Oh yeah.
So now is it literal stories? Have you embellished their lives and that kind of thing?
That's a good question. Yeah. Some of it's literal stories because some of the people left behind diaries, letters, but then you get people who literally all you've got is their tombstone.
So you're
and
like making it up.
And death date.
Yeah.
So in cases like that, I'm like, okay, what do I know about the area at that time? Who might they have associated with? And kind of like flesh it out from there. So yeah.
Let your creative juices go.
So. Yeah, I try to keep it within reason, but sometimes, you just gotta be like, okay, this is what I know about the person, so we're gonna, kind of like, well, maybe it was this way.
That's cool.
So
that's cool. How many plays have you written then?
Well, we do that one every year. I did several other little pieces for the Heritage Alliance, but later this year, coming up for my job at the McKinney Center, we're doing a true crime play.
Ooh.
Called You Can't Get Away With This, that's based on a murder that happened in Jonesborough in 1928.
What?
So.
Ooh, that sounds scary, Mitch. Well, maybe Mitch will come out there with me.
It's interactive, so because it was never like sufficiently solved.
Right.
So we're putting all the stuff out there, all the facts, and letting the audience make up their own minds.
That's cool.
So
I like it. And you could tie in like a real life investigation story. You could start walking around downtown looking for clues that you planted, and then boom, Mitch jumps out of the. You're never catching me. I like it. I love that you're a super creative person. What was one of your first jobs in Johnson City where you kind of, what was one of your first jobs?
Well, probably right out of high school, I did, actually during late high school, I did summer educare at Lake Ridge Elementary.
Yeah.
And, our director was like, you got to do lesson plans, you got to do things. So I would do like theater with the kids. And
so that kind of maybe sparked a little bit, and then you fan that flame a little. I think that's super cool that theater. Carly, my wife, and I, we love going to plays, and I think I don't appreciate all the back end hard work, right?
It's a lot of work.
You guys write. I mean, like it takes forever to write the script, get it right. I mean, tell us about the process from step one to getting something on stage. For somebody maybe listening, maybe interested in helping out do that.
Well, with like the radio show, because we do that one every month.
Yeah.
So every month there's like a 22-page script due.
Holy smokes.
And I have to have it to the actors by a certain date, and we've got rehearsal. And for that, depending on the theme, I'm like, okay, whose story's in the archive that I can pull from? And then I'm like, who do I need to go talk to? Like, this person's perfect for this theme. I've never talked to them. Let's go get their story. And then we have some writers too who help out, and we'll like mine the archives or pull stuff from their personal life and be like, this story that happened to me is perfect for this theme. Can I do it? They'll send it to me, and that helps a lot. So, it's a great team to work with, but it's like every month you finish one, it's like, okay, I got to start on the next one.
Yeah.
So
page a day. It's 22 days away. Yeah. That's cool.
But with like the bigger plays, like the one we're doing this summer, like I spent like, some significant time on the research, like going through the old newspapers, going to the archives. So seeing what I could find.
Do you like doing the research part?
I do like doing the research part. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
is that the history story like in your background?
I'm not the best sometimes at reading the handwriting. That can be frustrating. But
I'm sure. If you had to read mine, you'd be in trouble.
I feel the same way about mine. I'm like, someone in the future's going to hate me. Like, why'd they write like this?
Now, where do you go to do a lot of your research? You doing that online now, or do you actually go into like the Jonesborough Historical Society and that kind of thing?
Washington County has a great archive, and then like the libraries around here are great. But it is helpful that things like, you do have to pay for it, but like newspapers.com and Ancestry has a lot of that right there. But some stuff you just can't get anywhere but the library.
Right.
So
now, I guess, and as you produce stuff, it probably is getting digitized and screened. And so, I guess one day we won't, it's all going to be online, which is kind of crazy to think about.
It's kind of crazy to think about.
And a little sad that you're not going to go blow off the dust off some old book and open it up.
Well, that's the importance of keeping the old books just in case something ever happens to online.
Right. So. If the online goes down, we're in trouble. We're really in trouble if that happens for sure. Who have been some of the most influential people that have helped you get to where you are today? I know you said you had some great teachers.
Yeah. Well, when I was, at the time it was Science Hill, because I was at Science Hill where they switched and 8th grade became part of Science Hill. My history teacher that year was James Estep. He was fantastic, made me fall in love with history. And then Debbie Quorum, Rick Marshall were my theater teachers there, and they were, absolutely pivotal in nurturing that love. So
that's cool. And then you went to Mars Hill and studied more of it.
Yeah, I did theater and history at Mars Hill. I did double major. So
do you enjoy acting yourself, or you?
I do. I try to stay out of my own stuff because I'm usually directing it too, and it's hard to direct and act. But especially with the cemetery play out, so I don't know, I feel like someone inevitably always gets sick because it's October. So I usually end up there somehow.
The flu got you again. Yeah. So if you had to choose acting or directing, which one would you pick?
Probably directing now.
Okay.
I probably once would have said acting, but probably directing now.
What do you love about directing?
Watching it come together and watching like the people who are in it, like making the magic. So.
And helping maybe bring certain things out of certain people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And just evoking these emotions and getting it to be more believable.
And that's one of the best things about the radio show because it's very low stakes. I mean, yes, you're up in a group of people, but you've got the script there, so you're not going to get lost. And it's not a big commitment. We have one rehearsal and then the show. So people come and go. Our cast is always growing. So if someone's interested in getting involved in acting, you're like, I don't know about that. That's a really low stakes way to get involved.
That's cool. So you do that at the McKinney Center. Mm-hmm. There's also now, there's the Jonesborough Repertory Theater, right? Mm-hmm. And then now there's the Jackson.
There's the Jackson
Theater. So we got a lot of theater options.
There's a lot of theater options.
For tiny little Jonesborough,
I know. And we kicked off the radio show, because usually we're at the McKinney Center, but we actually started the year at the Jackson.
Nice.
And it was awesome.
So tell our listeners about the Jackson Theater. Yeah. I mean, I've driven by there 100 times, and I think it's finally done, right?
It is. It's done. It's open. They're showing movies. They got concerts. So.
Tell me what the process was, or the reasoning why to build the Jackson. I mean, it was already
there. So that was Jonesborough's first movie theater. It opens in the 1920s. It's called the Blue Mouse.
Okay.
But by the 1940s, it's known as the Jackson Theater. And what's cool is the theater company that renovated that building to be the Jackson did the Sevier here in Johnson City at the same time.
Okay.
So they were kind of like sister theaters.
Nice.
Now, sadly, the Sevier is no longer here. Start being a theater, the Jackson did in the 1960s. And then it was kind of like various other things like offices and retail, a dance studio. Yeah. But the town, for at least 10 years now, had a vision to how do we take it back to a theater?
Yeah.
How do we make it like the theater in Franklin? How do we do like the Paramount? How do we do that? It was the labor of love.
Yeah.
A long time coming. But yeah, it opened in November of last year.
Yeah, I think they were fundraising a lot, and it just took a lot of work.
It did, and then like COVID happened, and that just kind of slowed everything down. But the town stuck with it because they had a vision of what it could be and how important it would be to have that kind of venue in town.
I think it is cool. I haven't been in there yet, so I need to
You need to come. Yeah,
I will, for sure.
I mean, the movies, like Thursday night, actually, they're doing The Sandlot with the Doughboys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so.
That's really cool. I love that. And then right beside it, literally, is the Repertory Theater. Tell our listeners about Jonesborough's Repertory Theater.
Oh, they're amazing. I mean, they do so many shows. It's always so good, and they sell it like crazy. So if you want to see one of their shows, you got to get in there.
It is such a intimate environment too.
It is, and they do so much with such a tiny space.
I
I'm
agree.
always amazed.
Same. Every time we come out of there, Carly and I are just like, that was awesome.
Yeah.
One,
I've never seen anything there, especially in the last few years. I'm like, oh, it was bad. No, So, yeah.
It's really good. I think it's cool that we have a number of theaters for sure around, but then just the talent of actors in our area.
Incredibly talented actors. Yeah. And I feel really lucky because I get to use them in my plays, and they're, some of them are on the radio show too. And they're a great group of people to work with.
Yeah. What's something that you're most excited about that you're working on right now?
I mean, honestly, it's probably the play this summer, the murder mystery, because this is a story I wanted to tell years ago, actually, my first job at the Heritage Alliance. And when I brought it up to my director then, I hadn't been at the Heritage Alliance very long. And when I brought it to my director then, this was probably 10 years ago, she literally said, more people have to die before you can do this. And I was like, oh, what's that about?
Okay.
But I was like, it's almost been 100 years now, so we're doing it.
There we go. Yeah. Hopefully they're not still rolling around. That's hilarious. I think I heard something about Trump, our president, was wanting to release some documents or whatever. And he's like, well, we may need to wait, make sure that everybody, that it could harm is gone. And so it may be a little bit before we release some of these documents. I'm just like, that's, I think it's respectful.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want anybody to have any weird things. So talk to me and the listeners a little bit about what's going on in Jonesborough. You can be our eyes and ears on the ground. What's going on in Jonesborough, and where do we see things growing and going in Jonesborough? What's happening?
You talk about, gosh, the town's already grown by leaps and bounds. I know Johnson City is too, which is great also from my perspective because there's new people, new stories. We're busy like Johnson City is all the time with like events.
Carly and I went to this Makers Market.
Makers Fair? Yeah.
That was Makers Fair,
Yeah.
yes. It was awesome. So nice downtown. And
it is, yeah.
We went to the Possum's Tail.
Possum's Tail's great, and they're expanding. They're working on it.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, to the building next to them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah. That was really good. And then we got the bees, something.
The Buzzed Wings.
Buzzed Wings.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we'll go to it used to be a
Tex-Mex place,
yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then, so now Buzzed Wings, and it looked interesting. It's just always cool what's going on down there. And then I think we had just missed the farmer's market. They were packing up.
That's
Saturday.
every Saturday, and
there's a lot going on
there's
downtown.
a lot going on.
And then you got music on the square Friday night.
Music on the Square every Friday night, and then starting in June they do Brews and Tunes on Sundays.
Whoa!
Which is Sunday after church, where it's music and beer and a food truck outside the Storytelling Center.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe a little different style of music than what's on the square sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah. So, but there's always something going on in town, and that's the thing. And Jonesborough kind of used to be that way, like historically. But then, of course, there was like kind of like a lull, especially when like places like Johnson City got bigger, and Bristol got bigger, and Kingsport got bigger. But then once Jonesborough tapped into historic preservation and history, and then like storytelling, it got back to busy again. Yeah. So
how do you? I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but how do you? Curate someone to do a story for you? Like, what is your criteria? Maybe somebody listening is like, got their hand up. Hey, I want to tell my story. What does that look like? What's that process?
We have people reach out to us, and then sometimes I'm telling, hey, you really need to get this person's story. Like your mom's 80, awesome, full of stories.
There you go.
That's a whole life right there.
Right.
And then some people are like, oh, I don't have a story. Nothing happened in my life. But it's as simple as me going and saying like, okay, tell me about do you remember the first day of school? Did you have a favorite teacher? Why were they your favorite? And that kind of leads to something more.
I got you.
So it can be as easy and simple as that. And we just contact people. Sometimes they come meet us at McKinney Center. Sometimes we go to them, especially if someone's older, people in their 90s, we've gone to them. World War II veterans, especially, if someone hasn't recorded their story, gosh, now's the time. We just keep it really comfortable like this. We just want to chat and have a conversation. So
that's cool. Yeah, I think it's neat. Now, if somebody wanted to connect and like I said, they're raising their hand, how do they get a hold of you to do that? Yeah,
so the StoryTown Radio Show. We're on Facebook, Instagram, all those. McKinneyCenter.com has my contact, Angie Fellers-Mason. And then it's Ann with an E-M at jonesboroughtn.org, or just call the McKinney Center. I'm there. So
You're running it.
Yeah, I'm not running it, but I'm there.
You're there. You're there.
I'm part of the team.
Part of the team. It takes a. Yeah.
It does.
It takes a village. What are you like? Maybe somebody who's thinking about being a playwright or getting into theater. What would be some advice you'd pass on to those folks?
I just don't let like the aspect of not being successful get in your way. Because, I mean, very few of us are going to be Stephen Sondheim or any of those people.
Right.
Very few of us are. But that doesn't mean the art's not valid and you shouldn't do it.
Right.
And finding a good network of people to collaborate with is invaluable.
Yeah.
So.
What's your, I think some advice maybe to fight the fear, right? Like.
Yeah, fight the fear. Just write it. Because, you're always going to change the first draft. The first draft of any, very few things the first draft is great of. Like when I used to do, I used to do like a one-room schoolhouse situation with the Heritage Alliance for kids. And they'd write with quill pens and they'd get frustrated. And I'd be like, well, if you look at if you look at one of the copies of the Declaration of Independence, like Thomas Jefferson went through so many, he's scratching stuff out. I was like, we all make mistakes. Like your first draft's not going to be perfect. So.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, because I think you just got to get it.
The story that's written is automatically better than the one that's not.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think just getting it down on paper and, like you're saying, just write it, but spend a little time every day on it, inch by inch, but just fight that fear because the world's going to tell you you're not going to.
Yeah, the world's going to tell you that anyhow.
It's not good or whatever, but you know what?
Yeah.
All the great plays out there, they fought through that.
Yeah.
So you may have an unbelievable story to tell and an unbelievable play that's coming out. And, and you get to meet wonderful people while you do it too, for sure. If you were hosting this podcast, what would you have asked yourself that I haven't so far? Anything? Because you have a podcast, right?
We do have a podcast.
Tell me about the podcast since you're a podcast host. That's why I thought I would ask that to you to lead us in there.
So the StoryTown Radio Show podcast came out of the regular radio show. The cast actually probably 5 years ago.
Oh, cool.
Was like, hey, is there a way we can like make this more permanent than just this is one night only?
Right.
So we started recording them, and that comes out monthly. So if you can't come to the live show, we have this podcast that goes out internationally. So it's really cool to watch like where our listenership comes from.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't that fun?
Around the globe. Yeah.
All over the place.
Yeah. Just like listen to stories where we record in Jonesborough, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So we record the radio show and put it out. And then from that, too, we've added Voices of the Archive podcast, which you find all of our podcasts under the StoryTown Radio Show moniker. Because we have 10 years worth of oral archives.
Oh, wow.
So going back and finding like a story in the archives that hasn't been shared in a while or has never been shared, and we give it its own like feature. And then sometimes for the radio show, I have this team of writers who help, and they'll send me all this stuff, and I'm like, that's great. We got 90 minutes, guys. So I have to cut someone sometimes just for time's sake. And then, so I do a director's cut podcast where their show still gets featured. Just, it doesn't make it into the live show, but they get their own little podcast.
Oh, I gotcha. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. So, I think podcasting it's been fun for me for sure. And I think it is neat. It's like an oral record, right?
It is.
Where do you see the future of like podcasting and that kind of stuff going? Do you have any idea? Or?
Oh, I don't know, because it's interesting. My old job in the museum world, everyone was like, you should start a podcast, and we never did. So when I got to this job, I inherited these podcasts. So I've been learning a lot just on the fly of like doing it. Like, this is how you record it, and this is how you upload it, and this is how you edit it.
Yeah.
But it's really neat, and just like the wealth of podcasts out there, and it's just a great way too. I mean, there's some amazing
unbelievable
podcasts out there. The stuff you can learn.
Yeah, and then I think there's it's just a crazy cool medium that you can learn anything you want from anywhere in the world. I mean, from the experts, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like YouTube too. Like they're showing you exactly how to make a perfect steak or whatever it might be. It's just unbelievable the access we have to just infinite skills and abilities.
And information like right there,
Information right there, and then, AI is absorbing all that too, and so then you ask it questions, and it's like not only coming up with one person's thing, it's synthesizing it all and sticking it together, and you're like getting the best of the best. So I guess you could start running plays through AI and see, write, hey, ChatGPT, I want to write a story about... and just it'll be interesting to see what comes out, what it spits out.
I mean, that's when they're having the conversations about it. About is this like, so does ChatGPT write songs? Did they write this book? the questions that you find in every decade to ask.
Yeah, it's
So-
going to be interesting to watch that continue to evolve and grow. And I think stories are beautiful, and because they're told by beautiful people. And so you just love hearing somebody's life and how they've gotten through it.
And we love, we always try to invite anyone whose story is featured in the radio show. Like, hey, we're sharing your story, so hopefully they can come, or if they've sadly passed on, their family can come.
Yeah.
And just seeing their reactions or coming up and being like, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it's neat. I wonder if some of the families have been like, show up and they're like, we didn't even,
Yeah. Well, some of them, they're like, oh, my parents never talked about this to me, but they're talking about you, or like, I didn't know that. I'm going to ask more questions.
Yeah.
So, the conversations that it leads to.
Yeah, I think it's interesting what we hold back in our hearts, and hide sometimes, or don't want to hurt other people, or you feel like you're protecting other people by not sharing certain things maybe. And you wonder what all the stories are out there that haven't been told.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. Yeah.
It's super cool. Super cool. I think what you do is it sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
I need to come check out the radio show one day.
Yeah, you should come check it out.
Yeah.
So.
And again, you're McKinney Center. They can find you there, and then you're on Instagram and
You're
Facebook.
on Instagram, Facebook, X. We do have a YouTube channel. That's probably the thing that we need to focus on next because it hasn't gone very far.
Okay.
But we do have one. So that was more for like when during the pandemic we were live streaming the radio show, but now of course we're back in person.
Yeah.
But that's an untapped well of potential there in our YouTube channel. But we do put like the Director's Cut podcast like on that channel
that's
too.
cool.
So, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's jump off. Like, what do you love to do for fun in Jonesborough? We're going to talk to our listeners about.
Yeah.
More about Jonesborough since we've got a resident expert.
Yeah. I really like to go to the Jackson Theater now.
Yeah.
They show all kinds of, cool movies for like $5. So I can sit on my couch and stream, but I could go to the theater and get a big old thing of popcorn for like very little money.
And sit with some other people.
And sit with some other people and have a good time.
Yeah. See your friends.
So,
get out and get about. Okay, so Jackson's Theater's one thing for fun. If you're going to go to lunch in Jonesborough, where are you going?
Main Street Cafe.
Every time, right?
Every time.
Isn't that so good?
Yeah. And there's lots of good options, but they're just, they're standard.
What do
They've been around since 1980s.
What do you love to get there?
You always have good specials, but I love their salads.
Yeah.
So they got good salads.
They do have a good salad. We had the owner of that on here. All right, you're going to dinner down somewhere in Jonesborough. Where are you going to go?
The possum shell's good, but Black Olive, which is, our Black Olive, y'all have one here.
We have one now, but it started in Jonesborough.
Yeah, but there's very soon a brand new steakhouse coming right next to Jackson Theater by the people who have the Americano in Roan Mountain.
Really?
It's going to be called Jackson's Prime.
What?
They're working on it right now.
Here. That's awesome. Do you know when they're thinking about opening?
It's either, I think,
Jackson's
maybe late
Prime.
summer.
That sounds cool.
So, but they're going to be like a dinner destination.
Look at that.
So
heard it here on the podcast.
That's right. You heard it here. So.
Top secret. Oh. I love it. Yeah, I think that's cool. I've heard good things about the Americano up in Roan Mountain. And so, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I think there are some ice cream options in Jonesborough, right?
Yeah, there's, Grace Meadows who has a kitchen.
Yep.
They have an antique shop downtown. They sell their ice cream.
Yeah, we love
out of the antique shop.
Right.
Yeah.
Ice cream in there is so good.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So there's lots of places in town to pop.
Are you an antique
cream.
person? Do you like to go antique?
I mean, I like to go look at it, but my house is full of nut tchotchkes, so I just like to look.
I don't need any more stuff.
We did go there, though, because last year at the radio show, I was like, let's really lean into, because we were kind of rebranding. I was like, let's really lean into the 1930s feel. So we went down there and found like a 1930s radio and bought it. And now it's like our mascot. It sits out every show.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you start the show with?
We do.
Yeah. Got to get it dialed in.
Yep.
There we go. Hello. We're at the. Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. I think it sounds like you have just a blast at work all the time.
So, it's never boring. And I like that about my old job, too, is that I never knew what any day was going to bring. And same, because I never know. Like, literally, people just call and like, hey, you need to talk to this person, and you should go down there and talk to them now, which is kind of like a news thing. But, I get to kind of take my time with it.
Yeah.
it's not instantly going live.
Do you have like a news car? You jump in the news car. Let's go get in the Storymobile. And we're gonna go track this person down and record their story. I love it. Yeah, I think it sounds like a lot of fun. You have a blast. I think. What are some goals you have for yourself this year? You have any? You're trying to, besides the play, obviously?
We're trying to grow the podcast just reasonably, because it's been out for a few years. And I didn't mention too that we have a partnership with WETS.
Okay.
So they air our show the last Wednesday of every month.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, at 8 p.m.
Okay.
So
that's cool.
And then just collecting more stories and preserving the history and the feel of this region. So.
Tell us when the Storytelling Festival is. Do you know this year?
It is always the first weekend in October.
Okay.
The first full weekend in October.
Gotcha.
Is when the Storytelling Festival is.
Okay. And do you get involved with that pretty heavily too, or?
When I can, I go to it because I love it.
Right.
But I think this year, actually, I talked about Jimmy Neal Smith earlier. He was the founder, and he passed away in March.
Oh, wow.
So we're working with the Storytelling Center to kind of preserve his legacy. So we're actually going to have a presence there talking to the tellers who've been coming for years and talking to people from around the world who've been coming throughout the years who knew Jimmy Neal to capture those memories. So
that's super cool.
Yeah.
And I think, is there a regular story swap thing?
There
too,
is.
At the...
Yeah.
I've heard about that.
So there's a swapping ground at the Storytelling Festival, so you can go tell a story at the Storytelling Festival, at the National Storytelling Festival. Step up, do it. And then there's a local version, which is the Jonesborough Storytellers Guild, and they perform every Tuesday night.
Every Tuesday night. Where's that at?
The Storytelling Center.
It's at the center. That's cool. What? And is that easy to get into, or do you need a ticket for that?
You do, but it's really low in charge. I think they're like $5 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, they take members. There's like a training process. So if you want to become a storyteller, that's a good way to work up and do it. So
yeah, I think that would be good. I just went to a conference in Dallas for real estate agents, and they said, the people who tell their story and better than other people do better. You connect at a deeper level with your story, and people feel more cared for because you're really diving in.
Yeah.
And so I think it's cool. I think stories just have such a power, and they're just, it's just a lot of fun. Luckily I grew up, I got to go to the Storytelling Festival a lot as a kid.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
It's a good time.
It was a good time. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Last question is,
okay,
what gets you fired up? You're just like, oh, let's go.
Probably giving voice to someone in history who I feel like did not get justice or overlooked or pushed aside. When I find the thing and I can put that story center stage, I'm like, yes,
Yeah, I can tell you lighting up right there.
Yeah.
Somebody had been marginalized, and maybe didn't, or suppressed, and you can't tell,
So, finding that story and being able to put it out there and people come and listen and be like, oh, yeah. So I really like those moments because I like to feel like that person's like, okay, thank you.
Right. Even that they're not around anymore.
Yeah, even though they're not around anymore. So
that is really cool. Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've enjoyed getting to listen to your story and listening to how you're collecting other people's stories and just memorializing them and helping them. I think it's just beautiful. And so I wish you the best.
Thank you.
I'm a little envious because you work in Jonesborough. It's just so pretty down there, and just a lot of great spots.
It is. I will say that I miss my daily walks in the tree streets. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you want to move over there, I can help you with that. I do that.
Okay.
I'll keep an eye out for a house for you. So, well, thanks again for listening, everyone. Thank you for listening to Ann. Check out her podcast. Check out the Storytelling Live show.
Yeah.
I mean, we would love to have people show up for that for you. Go to the Jackson Theater.
Go to the Jackson Theater.
Grab a big bucket of popcorn, hang out with her. And so, thank you again. It's just been a pleasure. And I wish you the best. And I hope this play comes out great this summer. I'm excited to come see it. I think Carly and I'll be down there. That'll be fun.
It's 18th, 19th, 25th, and 26th of July. So come on out.
There we go. I love it. And where do we find tickets for that or more info for that one?
Oh, yeah. So you can get tickets for anything the McKinney Center does at jonesborough.com/tickets.
Okay.
Yep.
Jonesborough.com/tickets. We'll put that in the show notes down below. We'll put a link to your podcast and the live storytelling show. And I'm excited.
Yeah.
So thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again for listening. Have a great day.